This is a body that had been frozen for many years. The deceased's skin was dark and shriveled. The crime scene was located in Alaska's glacier region. However, intern Clark was stunned when he saw the corpse. He said this person was a scientific expedition enthusiast worth over $100 million, and he himself had participated in the wealthy man's expedition project. Strangely, the man had suddenly disappeared during the mission. At this point, the medical examiner discovered that the deceased had not died accidentally. In other words, he had been murdered. The other 4 people on the expedition were all suspects. The agent arrived at the expedition site to investigate and examine the team's group photo from that time. The medical examiner found multiple fractures on the deceased's body, indicating the cause of death was a fall from a great height, or possibly being deliberately pushed off a cliff. But Angela rejected this theory after hearing it. The map showed that the area was completely flat terrain, which didn't match the hypothesis of being pushed from a height at all. The agent questioned John, noting he hadn't been the first choice for the expedition team. John stated that he and the deceased were not only longtime friends, but the deceased was also an investor in his expedition project. He would never have killed him. Meanwhile, the medical examiner determined the murder weapon was a high-end ice axe, but everyone on the expedition had one of these, so they still couldn't identify the real killer. Angela studied the crime scene and discovered that this area had actually been a cliff back then. Global warming had transformed it into what it looks like now. The body had been lodged in a glacier crevice. The agent believed that knowing who was with the deceased at the time would lead them to the killer. Angela immediately pulled up the expedition's work schedule, which recorded all the team's details. After investigating, they identified a suspect, Mia. Mia explained that she hadn't followed the plan because the guide, Javi, had forbidden her from going to that area. He needed to use explosives to collect avalanche monitoring data. The agent noted that this account wasn't recorded in the files, so he was skeptical of Mia's alibi. Mia claimed she was with Clark at the time and hinted that they had a close relationship. The medical examiner brought a new clue. He had detected gunpowder residue on the deceased's hands. Among the suspects, only Javi had expertise with explosives. The agent summoned Javi to the investigation bureau. Javi said that on the day the deceased disappeared, he was preparing an avalanche experiment. He had suggested everyone stop work and return to the cabin for shelter, but the deceased refused to listen and insisted on staying put. The two had a heated argument, and the deceased even grabbed the explosives and threatened him physically. The agent was very skeptical of Javi's account because less than 12 hours after the deceased went missing, Javi had called in a helicopter and decided to evacuate. Javi explained that the helicopter had been stationed nearby the day before. Due to the extremely bad weather, they had to prepare an exit route in advance. Javi said that asking the pilot would prove his innocence. The pilot quickly confirmed Javi's story. She also saw the deceased apparently arguing with a team member at the cabin. The deceased was easy to identify because he wore a red vest, but the other members all wore uniform gray clothing, so she couldn't see who it was. The agent immediately inspected the cabin and indeed found a lot of bloodstains inside, confirming it as the murder scene. However, since all team members had visited the cabin, they still couldn't determine who the real killer was. The medical examiner discovered a butterfly fracture in the cheekbone area, indicating someone had struck the deceased's skull hard with their right hand. They could extract the killer's knuckle characteristics from the trauma area.